Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm here in Bodrum in Turkey. It's about 35 degrees, completely blue sky, and first stop is I'm going to go to an art shop to buy some turpentine, some solvent to mix my paints, because you aren't allowed to bring it with you on the plane, and I only brought hand luggage. So I've got my paints, I've got all my art kits, and I'm just going to go and find an art shop and then find a nice place to paint and maybe somewhere to eat breakfast as well. So yeah, it's really nice scenery around here. Everything's very white, the buildings, flowers, stuff like that, so I think I'll be spoiled for choice as far as finding a place to paint. So let's go to this art shop, get some breakfast, and then find a painting location. So just had some breakfast, or more like lunch, because it's about 3 hours ahead than it is in England, and I'm now down by the harbour, and the water has this really lovely turquoise colour to it, the sunlight sparkling off it, so that will definitely be a nice subject to paint. But I'm actually going down to find a beach now. We're just gonna chill out on the beach, probably go swimming in the sea and do a painting as well. So this is my very first time in Turkey. So just up ahead to my left, we've got Bodrum Castle. Could be quite a nice subject to paint. Maybe another day, so it's quite close to where I'm staying, so I could definitely come back down here and paint that. Turkey is an incredibly historical place. It's been sort of at the centre of civilization for a very long time, so there's a lot of interesting historical ruins. So that is Bodrum Castle just there. And if you look up ahead, you can see a lot of the Turkish flags on the boats. No confusing where we are. So I'm here on Asbat Beach, and it's been quite hard deciding which scene to paint, because as you can see behind me, there's this large mountain going into the sea, which is quite spectacular. But also in front of me, there's the rocks which are mostly in shadow, and then these umbrellas on the beach, and then some mountains going off into the distance, which I also think works nicely as a composition. So I'm going to go with the one painting towards the people. One little tip about if you do come to this beach, strangely, if you're wondering why so many people are on my left hand side and not that many people are on the beach behind me, if you do cross onto the other beach, they make you pay 1,000 lira per person, which I think is about 30 quid each. So I don't know if it's really worth it just to cross over to be a bit closer to the mountain. So I'm staying here, I'm going to paint here. It's going to be quite a busy scene. It's hot, but there's a nice little breeze going on at the moment. So remember, subscribe to my channel and let's start painting.
I'm working on an acrylic gesso primed panel, which I've toned to a neutral grey before I start painting. And here I'm just sketching in the main lines of the composition using raw umber paint. I've started by painting in the sky, which unfortunately I didn't capture on film, but I've basically painted the lightest section of the sky, which is directly above the horizon, with a slightly warmer tone to it to capture that haze above the horizon. And when you first put that paint down, it looks like you're just painting a murky grey, but when you start to add more blue to your colour mix further up in the sky, it gives that light grey you put down above the horizon, it suddenly gives that colour a warmth and vibrance. And I'm now working my way from the background to the foreground. Here I'm painting in these distant hills, which are quite close in value to the sky. Here I'm painting the shadows on the rocks, and I'm really trying to abstract the shadow pattern and look at the shadows as a unified shape. And one way to achieve this is if you squint at the scene, as this will help you overlook small shifts in value and light which may be breaking up some of this shadow pattern, as I want to get the big overall shape of light and shadow, and then on top of this I can pick out smaller details and subtler shifts in value and colour temperature. To paint the sea, I start by painting the section on the horizon, which is the darkest section of the sea, and it has a really deep blue hue to it, so I'm using quite a lot of ultramarine blue and only a touch of titanium white in this mix. And as the sea gets closer and closer to the beach, it takes on a lighter value which becomes slightly greener and more of a turquoise blue than that in the distance. To paint this yacht in the harbour, I've started by painting the back of the boat, the section which is getting lit by direct sunlight, and to paint this I've used titanium white and a small touch of cadmium yellow added to this colour mix to create the effect of sunlight lighting this section of the boat. For the side of the boat, which is in shadow, I've used a mix of ultramarine blue, titanium white, with a small touch of alizarin crimson and raw umber, just to neutralise the chroma of the blue slightly. And the shadow has this blue hue as it's receiving reflected light from the blue sky and the sea. I find one of the joys of painting white objects like this boat is capturing these shifts in colour due to reflected light sources. I'm now painting these beach umbrellas, which will become the main focal point of the composition, as the vibrant red and orange on the umbrellas makes them pop out against the blue sea and the general cool colour temperature of the other sections throughout the painting. To paint this palm tree on the right hand side of the painting, I start by painting in the leaves, or the fronds as they're known, but grouping them together into a mass of green, and once I've got this overall shape I then go in with a round brush which has a fine point, and I mix this with my green colour mix with a touch of my medium to make the mix a bit looser, and then delicately I can just drag the fine point of the brush out from the green mass into the sky to give that characteristic pointy shape to the fronds of the palm tree. To paint the people onto the beach, I mix two colour mixes for their skin, one for the sections in shadow and one for the sections in light. I also make specific colour mixes for their hair and the clothes, and I simplify the details within the figures and focus more on capturing the proportions and the gesture of their bodies and the shadow shapes within the figures. I don't bother painting subtle details like eyes, noses and lips, as just by creating the gesture and the colours I can create an accurate impression of the figures in the scene.
So I finished my first painting here in Turkey. It's been quite a busy scene to paint, and the shadows did move further and further across the painting as I worked. If you enjoyed that video, then please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next video.